I'm just going to do it. This is just it. We're in it. I'm not going to do the normal welcome spiel that I normally do because
Oh, okay.
I'm just changing it up. So, hello. Welcome back, everybody. So
We are on brand.
I just did it. I just said I'm not going to say the normal spiel, and then I just did. I said, welcome back, everybody. Anyway, hi, everyone. This is Valerie. I'm joined by my sister,
Veronica.
And you're listening to Scream Sister. We are your fun, friendly, spooky little podcast dedicated to all kinds of weirdness and spookiness in the movie and book realm, primarily focused on the Spanish language variety. But this month we have been branching out. We've been looking at other films from other regions outside of like Latin America, outside of Spanish language speaking regions. So we took a look at Train to Busan. Is it Train to Busan or Last Train to Busan?
Train to Busan.
Train to Busan. That's what I thought. And then we took a look at the UK's The Ritual. I'm like sweating. I'm sweating underneath all these covers.
For everyone coming to you live from her bed. Well, it's not live by the time you're listening to this, but anyway.
I'm bedridden at the moment, but the show must go on. So
yeah. So the last movie of our non-Spanish language venture that we watched was The Binding, which is an Italian film. It came out in 2020 and streamed on Netflix, still on Netflix. Original Italian title was, I hope I say this right. I did look it up. I heard Italian people on YouTube saying it. So The best I could make out was Il Legame, directed by Domenico Emanuele de Feudis. And again, I'm going off the way the Italian people pronounced it. I'm probably still getting it wrong because they talk really, really fast. Beautiful language, though.
Did you look at some like Italian reviews of it online or what?
I watched a couple of like Italian YouTubers that like one of them that were interviewing the director, but it was in Italian, obviously. So
okay. That's cool.
I didn't really understand.
Okay, cool.
Written by the director and also writing partners Daniel Gossi and David Orsini, starring Mia Maestro, Riccardo Scamarcio, who I actually know from the second John Wick movie. He was the bad guy.
Oh, okay.
But he also came out, according to IMDb, in A Haunting in Venice. I'm trying to remember who he was because I did see that movie.
I did see that one too.
Was he the dad? Was he the little boy's dad? I think he was. That's the only other male.
We're talking about the guy who plays the husband, the fiance in this one, right?
Yeah.
And he was in A Haunting in Venice. I thought that the guy who plays the dad was, he didn't play the dad. The dad was played by Jamie Dornan. That's what I thought.
Oh, that's right. Well, then who the heck was he?
I don't know. He's listed as, I don't even know how to say that name, but he is, I do see his face.
Was he the police? I wonder if he was the police.
Maybe he was the police. Okay.
He was in The Haunting in Venice. The Binding also stars Giulia Patrignani, who played Sofia, the little girl, and then Mariela Lazardo, who played Teresa.
Do you know that Mia Maestro is Argentinian? I didn't know that. I think she was born in Buenos Aires. I looked that up because I was like, she looks familiar to me, but I haven't seen much of anything that she's been in, although she has been in stuff.
I just know her from, it was a TV show like out in the, I don't know, 2000s, somewhere in there. I should look it up. The Strain, which was actually based on based on a book that was co-written by Guillermo del Toro.
Ah, yes.
But
I think we have that book on the shelf.
And I've never watched the first season of that show, but I do vaguely remember her being in it. I don't remember who she played, but it was a long time ago.
Interesting.
That was the movie that we watched. Clocked in at 1 hour, 33 minutes, which seems to be the norm for horror, at least foreign horror movies, about an hour and a half, which is cool.
Yeah.
So what were your initial... You look funny holding your microphone.
I'm having to hold it because I'm not even like fully sitting up. So it's just, it's a mess. Thank God you guys can't see us right now. But anyway.
No, we should be visual.
I enjoyed the film. I did. We'll talk about it as we go through it. But some of the reviews, some of the like, not the video reviews, I didn't look at any of those, but some of the reviews that we have linked for you guys in show notes were really harsh on this movie. And I thought that was a little kind of unfair. I enjoyed it. I thought the storyline was an interesting one. I do kind of agree with, I guess, some of the feedback that maybe the pacing felt a little slow, because I do remember at one point in the movie kind of looking just to sort of check where we were in it and just being like, okay, well, we're like halfway through, time for stuff to start happening. It was certainly beautifully done. Mia Maestro is very compelling in this film, as was the little girl.
I mean, I enjoyed it overall. Wouldn't say, I mean, I can kind of see where the criticisms were coming from in that when I was watching it, I was like, this really reminds me of something like so it was like stuff we've seen before. Obviously, I couldn't like think of an exact movie, but I think it's just the way it was laid out, kind of the theme. I don't
Mhm.
even remember a lot of like jump scares necessarily. I think there was once where I kind of jerked in my seat a little bit, but other than that, it was more creepy factor. So not like super scary, but I did enjoy the visuals. Obviously, it was filmed in Italy and it's a beautiful country, and I liked the use of the kind of muted color
Mhm.
palette that they used throughout the whole movie. I don't have anything negative to say about the movie. I guess I just don't also like have a lot of like ebullient praise
Yeah, it
necessarily,
didn't.
but I liked it. I mean, it was a good, I enjoyed
No,
watching
yeah.
it
I
for
mean,
the hour and a half.
I think that's a fair assessment. I agree with you. Like it didn't necessarily it wasn't novel in any way. It wasn't like this unique approach to what I guess this film would fall under the category of like folklore horror. And we'll kind of
Hmm.
get into that too, sort of like Italian superstition, Italian lore. I will say this. There were several times the movie did this where it took really interesting scenes where the camera took a very wide shot on things like the wooded area near the dead trees and like the dark corner of the little girl's bedroom where it's like it's a wide shot. So there's any number of things happening in the shot that you can't really see. And so
I know.
but there's like ominous music and so you're just like holy crap something's there. And so you're like
when the little
I was
when the little
straining my
girl was
eyes.
yeah, me too. When the little girl was there by the dead tree and she's looking, I
I
was like
know.
getting up into the right in front of the screen. I was like, what am I supposed to be seeing? What am I
I
supposed to
know,
be
I know.
seeing?
I was
I don't see
straining my eyes.
anything.
I was straining my eyes because I was like, I don't want to be jump scared. I don't want to be jump scared, but I couldn't see it. And then I was like, ah. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know if it.
I even paused it and got up close to the screen. I was like examining like every like what is it? What is here?
So that was something that I noted it doing more than once. But I was going to ask you this. One of the reviews I looked at kind of talked about motherhood being an essential theme in the movie, even if it's kind of superficially explored. So I wanted to ask you like what you thought of that kind of like the motherhood element.
I think that was kind of like so the basic premise of the movie is that Francesco is bringing his, I guess, fiance and her daughter out to the Italian countryside to meet his mother for the first time. And so his mother's Teresa, and that's one point early on the movie where she tells Emma, who's the fiance, that basically a mother's bond with her child is it's what was the word she used? It's inviolable, basically. Like
Yeah,
it's gonna outlast everything. So it kind of already like hit the nail, on the head that this was like a theme of the movie. But yes, I would also agree that it didn't really delve into that as much as it could have
as it
because
could have.
you had the of course Emma and her daughter Sophia, you have Teresa as the mother of Francesco, and then we come to learn through the backstory of what was
Ada,
her name? Ada?
Ada,
Ada?
yeah,
Ada
or
and the
Ada,
child that
Ada,
she lost. There were, I think, a lot of opportunities that they could have kind of delved into that better,
deeper. Yeah,
deeper than they did. So yeah,
yeah.
I'm not sure. And I don't know if that maybe I don't want to be reverse sexist, but I don't know if maybe a female director would have maybe approached that differently. I don't know.
Differently?
Food
Yeah.
for thought.
Well, and I mean, and I guess one thing we need to, as we like kind of launch into the movie. So the movie kind of opens. The movie opens with a what looks to be like a ritual taking place. There's a woman who's kind of held down. You immediately get the sense that there's something cultish happening. We come to find
Hmm.
out later on that's not entirely what it is, but there is some sort of a exorcism, I guess, taking place, for lack of another way to put it.
Yeah,
But
when she's screaming, I was like, "Oh my god, what are they doing this poor woman?" And I was like, "Okay, exorcism. Carry on. Carry on."
I know. I was like, is this like a demonic thing of some
Are
sort?
they
And then,
sacrificing her? Yeah.
so yes, so that is taking place. This is sometime in the past. We don't know when exactly, but you definitely get the vibe that this is sometime in the past. And then it cuts to black screen with text where it kind of explains what the binding represents. And I don't remember specifically what it said. Do you? I liked
Just
what
that
it
it kind
said.
of just basically that whoever is bound, you kind of lose your autonomy. You're no longer in control. You're
Yes.
under the control of whatever the other entity or the person who put the binding on you has control over you. So basically it removes your autonomy.
Which I kind of, I mean, I like that phrasing and that kind of way of talking about things, I suppose, like possession in this sense. I
Mhm.
don't, but it's not like, I don't know. I mean, it's not necessarily possession of a demon, although there is something evil within this girl who we will later come to find out is Ada when she
Mhm.
was younger. So I don't know, but I liked that explanation of it. I had not heard that before. So then after that, we cut to modern day. Like Veronica said, Francisco is taking his new fiance Emma and her daughter Sofia down to meet his mother Teresa at her beautiful Italian villa. I was like, well,
Yes.
this is lovely.
I'm a sucker for a good setting, and that was a gorgeous set. Even though the house has clearly seen better days, it's
Yes,
kind of it's past its days of grandeur. It's kind of like sliding into decay, but it's still just like a
beautiful. Yeah.
vintage beauty.
Yes, yes. But at one point, Teresa makes mention of the evil eye. She references the evil eye.
Mhm.
There is an evil eye in Italian, like superstitious lore or whatever. Is it
Mm.
Is it
Isn't
Ochio?
it mal de ojo? Mal de ojo? I don't know. Is it say the same way? I
No,
don't
it's
know.
so how it looks to me is Mal Ochio, but I don't know. I doubt that's how you say that, Mal Ochio. But anyway,
I don't know.
there is that same kind of concept in Italian culture as well, and so
And Teresa's kind of like what in Spanish we would call a curandera.
yeah,
I wonder what they would call her in Italian.
and she truly is because like from the get go, she's very much you can tell she's into like herbal remedies. Anytime she and her, I think she's labeled in some of the reviews we read as like a maid. I kind of assumed she was Teresa's sister, but Sabrina, the other old
Mhm.
lady, anytime she's doing prayers or chanting with her, there's lots of talk about the blood protect you, the blood do this, the blood.
Mhm.
And that again made me
I'm like,
think
"Whose
like,
blood?"
I know that again made me think like this is some kind of cult situation. Oh, and then like we never really there when they first get to the house and Sophia's kind of wandering around the house, the little girl, she hears crying and she later
Mhm.
sees a baby in a pram. What do they call them? What do they call them?
Pram? Bassinet?
Pram. Yeah. But a
The little
stroller,
bassinet?
a stroller. It's like, what is it called?
Well, they call them prams, I think, in the
I know
UK.
I couldn't think of like the United States word for that, a stroller. But yeah, she sees the baby in the pram later on, and that's never really. Where did the
See, I
baby come
missed that.
from?
I didn't even see that.
Who's the
Well,
baby?
maybe she's just what part are you I don't
In
remember her
like the
seeing the baby
very
in a
beginning, like when
inside the house?
well, so she hears the baby crying in the house, and so she goes wandering to look for it, and she's about to like creep open the door and peek in to see where the crying is coming from, and then an unseen person or hand or something shuts the door on her face and scares her off. So then later on, when she is upstairs with her mother Emma, and they see Teresa down, but like they're standing on the balcony, and they all see Teresa down talking to somebody. You see the stroller with
Oh,
the baby in it.
I just took that to be since she's like the
Ah,
curandera for that
yeah.
region, and people just come to her for, random village people coming
Random, yeah, yeah, which makes sense.
to the local healing woman or whatever they call them in Italy. I don't know. Curandera.
And then after that, they all gather for a lovely backyard dinner where it's announced that yes, they are engaged. Emma is joining the family. Everything seems very on the up and up. They do kind of say that weird prayer at the table that again just
Mhm.
sort of makes you feel like, what are these people all in on?
Creepy prayer for sure.
And then after that, we get into nightfall. And I don't remember. It's amazing like how quickly like things leave my brain. As soon as I watch this movie, I'm like in one ear out the other. But like once nightfall hits, what's her face? Sophia is staying in a room by herself, which I'm not sure that I as a little girl would have been on board with. Like, yeah, I'm ready to be in a room by myself in a creepy old house that I've never been in before. But she goes and she stays in her own room, and Emma and Francesco are in their room, and Emma believes that there's someone standing at the door watching her, right? But you saw, right? You saw like when she's looking at the door and she sees like a shadow of somebody watching that she knows is watching them. You
Mhm.
see the long hair, right? It's
Yeah.
it's Ada. Well, we don't know that yet, but it's Ada or Ada, whatever her name is. And I can't remember like at that point, is that when the little girl also encounters the tarantula and the bite?
Yeah, she gets bit by a big ass tarantula.
Big ass tarantula that is there in the room, and then when the parents come running in, Francesco goes and, like, what, stomps on it with his bare foot? I was like, "That's nasty. That's
I don't even
gross."
think that's possible. And number 2, that would have been my last night in that house, frankly. I would have been like, "Okay, we're going to the B&B, the local B&B. I'm not staying here with big ass tarantulas wandering the house at night at will.
Certainly not
I'm
in
out."
that room, and then, yeah, like, they establish in that scene that she got bit by the thing. I'm like, "Hell no. No, no, no."
Yeah. The next day, we see Teresa, like, working on, I guess, trying to heal the trees or something that's killing
That's
some of
right.
the trees, and
That's right.
she and what was it, Sabrina? Give Sophia, like, a little
Yep.
pouch of stuff that's meant to protect her, but they kinda see, this is where, like,
They gloss over this, but that is something.
people are doing things in, creepy, suspicious ways where, if you're just upfront with somebody, maybe they wouldn't be so suspicious of you.
Right.
Because Emma's immediately, her mom radar is like, "What are they doing
Well,
with
yeah,
my
yeah,
child?"
because it's just like this creepy talisman stuff, and if like I think it's a missed opportunity in the film because like had they gone, I understand, yes, for the purposes of the plot, they're not divulging what any of this means yet. Later on, when we get a bunch of backstory courtesy of Teresa just dumped on us, it would have been the opportunity to kind of maybe like bring viewers into the world of this lore that I
Mhm.
don't know, like, I guess if you are Italian, then you already know this stuff very well. Those pouches, those kind of, like, talisman things and what have you, those are all very prevalent to the superstition behind behind the Italian evil eye. I don't I if it's not pronounced Mal-Occhio, then I don't wanna continue saying it that way because I don't wanna get, dragged for that, but the Italian evil eye, that is sort of that does tie into the lore of all of that
Mhm.
stuff. But you don't know that unless you go digging that up or you already innately know that. So I had to go digging that up. But yeah, this is that scene where we get the wide shot of isn't this the scene where we get the wide shot of the woods and the
I
little girl's
think
like
so.
yeah, and you're just like
And the
straining
dog's barking his head off.
and it may not be this particular scene. It may come later when the little girl is wanders back to that tree on her own, but she sees the what we believe is like not a real thing. Like when I first you do see Ada emerge from the forest line eventually. You see her for like a split second, and so you wonder if she's even really there, if it's a ghost, if it's what. So that was well done. That was nice and creepy. But yeah, so far away that you almost couldn't see it. It would be very easy to miss it.
When does Emma come upon the room where Teresa and Sabrina are giving Sophia something to drink?
I
And
think
that
that's immediately after that scene because
Okay.
Sophia is asking Teresa, her, would be grandmother, I guess, if this wedding goes through. She asks her to teach her the ways of this. And so then in the next scene, we see Sabrina and Teresa kind of praying over something, blessing some sort of liquid. And then when one of them moves out of the way, Emma sees that it's her little girl, it's Sophia, that they're about to make her drink this liquid. And so she comes busting in. She's like, what the hell? Which, absolutely, I'd be like, excuse me? No,
Mhm.
ma'am. And then she kind of pulls Sophia out of there. And later on, she goes and confronts Francisco and Teresa about that. Like, what was that? I think this is where she also starts stumbling upon I think this is where she stumbles across an envelope that she doesn't totally open, or maybe she does. But you remember when she like after she leaves the room and Teresa kind of like you see the envelope and it's an old wedding
Mhm.
invitation
Mhm.
from 1980. Francesco was to be wed to somebody named Ada. Or I don't even know if we see the name, but it's
Yeah, we do.
yeah, it's the wedding that would have been Francesco and Ada. From the get-go, and maybe this is just kudos to this actor and his he has a very lovely face, but it is also like, it's too lovely. I don't trust you. You're creepy.
Well, see,
You're
I only know him as the bad guy in John Wick 2, so I was like, to me, he has a villain face
a villain face.
from
Yeah, it's like but it's a handsome face, and it's like, this guy is not on the level with Emma, and that spells danger.
Well, I
But
think that's, like, when Emma starts saying, "We're out of here in the morning," I think? I don't know. See, oh my
yes,
god,
yes,
this
yes.
we just watched this Wednesday and it's already
Well, I mean, I guess that kinda speaks though to, like, this movie for as beautiful as it is, to your point, and to the point of critics who have kind of trashed this movie, it's not memorable. It doesn't really stick with you.
Yeah.
I mean, even though it's plenty fun. It's fun viewing, but yeah, it's not breaking
Yeah, I
the
mean, it's
molds.
good to watch. There's certainly way, way worse movies that you could spend your time watching. But anyway, at some point in there, Emma kind of has her fill of,
Well, we do learn that she has been bound, that Sophia has been bound. There's a nice creepy scene where she wakes up and
which
sees
of
her
course
little
Emma
girl
doesn't, which of course Emma doesn't believe for.
believe. But there's a nice creepy scene where she wakes up and Sophia's in the corner just aggressively scratching herself, her neck kind of tilted at an impossible angle, looking straight up at the corner of this room where there's just mold in the corner. And yeah, definite possessed vibes going on. Nice creepy moment. But even after that, she's still like, no, we just need to get her to a doctor. That's what this moment needs, is modern
Mhm.
medicine. To Teresa's credit, she is honest with her. She's like, your daughter's been bound. I did kind of appreciate that because, like, at the big up until this point, I wasn't trusting Francesco. I wasn't trusting Teresa or Sabrina. I thought all of these people were in a creepy cult. But then the would-be mother-in-law kind of does reveal to her what's going on and why you need to trust us. And so I was just like, well, at least she's being honest. That's good.
Right.
But yeah, Emma's not buying any of it. Emma doesn't go for it. So she puts her daughter in a car, and yeah.
She sees Ada standing in the middle of the road, and so of course she swerves to miss her and wrecks the car and knocks herself out. She hits her head on the window, the car window, and when she finally regains consciousness, it's still nighttime. We don't know how long she's been out, but Sophia is nowhere to be found. And at this point, Francesco has gone after her, finds her stranded on the side of the road. He takes Emma back to the house and he goes off to continue searching for Sophia.
Yes.
And by this point, Emma is fully on board that, yes, there's hinky, weird stuff going on. I totally believe you. What do we do to find my
What do we
daughter?
do?
And
And at this point, like, I felt like I needed more information because they had kind of talked to her about the binding. I wanted more information about that. And then, like, even when Francesco makes it to the cave where Ada has taken Sophia, I'm still confused. I'm like, is she dead? Is she alive? Is she a deep? Like, what is this? Like, is she a real entity? Is she? I mean, I guess it's not inconceivable that she would have survived all this time in a cave, but I was just like, my brain was going to stupid questions like, well, how has she been how has she been surviving? What has she been eating?
yeah, how is
How's
it that
she
nobody has seen her in like all the
how has
years
she
that
survived
she's
the
been missing?
elements, the cold, the heat? Like, what?
Mhm.
So,
So, but back at the villa,
yes.
Teresa is giving the whole backstory now to Emma of, because Francesco's story to Emma was basically Ada was a girl who worked for us. We fell in love. We were just children. She got pregnant. She got sick, lost the baby, went
Yeah.
crazy with grief, and then just disappeared. That
Yes.
was his story. So now we're getting the true, unedited version, unabridged version from Teresa that basically, yes, Francesco and Ada fell in love. Ada got pregnant, was very much looking forward to having the baby, but Francesco, being that he was so young, wasn't ready to be a father, saw that as kind of the end to all of his dreams for his own future. So he decided on his own to, because of course he grew up with his mother as this, I'm going to call her curandera, because
Okay.
that's what we call her in Spanish, because I don't know what else to call her, what the Italian people would call her, but he grew up obviously with the curandera ways that he saw his mother, so he took it upon himself to try a ritual,
Yeah.
unsupervised on his own, that would basically terminate the pregnancy. But according to Teresa, he like tapped into powers that he couldn't control, and so through this ritual that went wrong is how Ada, I guess, became possessed or it's really not clear what happened to her specifically in
Right,
this
right, right.
ritual,
Yeah.
but things went wrong and now she's either bound herself or she's connected to some kind of evil something or other. She's got bad juju is going on, basically, is what's
Yes.
happening. And so she disappeared. They could never find her. Teresa felt horrible because she felt like was her duty to save her. That was the ritual that the movie opened up on. It didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And Ada disappeared and was never seen again. And then, it's like, well, how has nobody seen her in all these years?
In all these years. And so now Teresa tells Emma, Mia Maestro, we need to, basically she's like, we need to do a ritual that will get you to be able to see where they are, but you can't, something to the effect of like,
confront her.
You can't confront her. I don't know why. Maybe because the danger is that she might bind herself to you, but you need to be able to see where they are. Don't confront her. Perhaps maybe don't let her see that or sense that you're there, yada, yada, yada. And then they bring out the dead tarantula and they like drip some more blood into a bowl that they then made Emma drink it. And I wrote, nope, I'm out.
Oh, see, I didn't even see that they were reusing the dead tarantula.
She had to drink the blood of this tarantula. And I'm like, no, like, hell no. But yeah, so
for your child, Valerie, to save your child.
I suppose, gosh darn it. But so then she's able to see into the cave. She can see her little girl. She can see that Francesco's there. He's passed out because at this point, there was a confrontation between Ada and Francesco, and she essentially bound herself to him as well. And in the course of seeing her, of spying on her, Ada does come to realize that she is being watched, that someone is watching her. And I don't know if she can see Emma or not, but she can certainly sense that someone's watching her. And so then they bring Emma out of it. They go out. They go out to the cave. That's right. Sabrina doesn't go, but Teresa and Emma go in their car to go rescue Sophia. They do. They take her.
I think this comes after.
There's no Francesco. He's been taken off by Ada somewhere.
Because he had tried to strangle Ada. Remember that part?
Yes.
Ada is doing something to Sophia.
Yes. She's trying to complete she's trying to complete the ritual, whatever the ritual is.
Their connection or whatever it is.
Yes.
And Francesco wakes up and then he believes he has strangled Ada to death. And so he's over trying to wake up Sophia.
Which again, I was like, can you even kill her? I don't know. What are the rules of this movie?
I know. We don't have any rules. But he's trying to wake up Sophia. And while he's doing that, instead of just take the kid and run, Ada, who of course is not dead, comes and drags him away. We don't see what she does with him, but he's nowhere to be found when Emma and Teresa arrive at the cave.
And so, they presume the worst. Teresa's thinking that her son is gone or something. So they haul Sophia back to the house, and now they've got to do yet another ritual to unbind her. And so Teresa says something to the effect that we have to essentially drain the contaminated blood. And at this point, there's just like this massive. This is a gross movie for people who don't like pus wounds, so which is everybody, I should hope. But they've got to like drain this massive pus wound on her back where the spider bit her. I guess where the binding took place. And so they've got to start draining her of the dark contaminated blood. So it's kind of like a bloodletting in a way. And so in the doing of this, Ada is obviously moving closer and closer towards the house because she knows that they've come and they've taken Sophia and that they're trying to undo her work. They hear her. Sabrina, the other elder lady who has just sort of been a quiet, steady force so far, decides she's going to go off and deal with it. And the minute she walks off, I'm like, well, bye, Sabrina. We will not see you again. And we don't. Ada kills her. They're trying to bleed her of the binding. And then Teresa tells Emma, you've got to join your blood with her blood to rebind her to you. It's such a weird.
I know. Well, Emma stabs herself with the scissors. I'm not sure why.
Well, because you see in that moment, you see her eyes. So when someone is bound, their eyes kind of go glossy, kind of like an old dog that with eyes that have gone white from what is
cataracts?
It? Cataracts. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. When dogs have like major cataracts and their eyes go foggy and and white. When Sophia first gets bound, her eyes do that. When he first gets bound, his eyes did that. And in that moment that Emma is starting to point the scissors toward herself, or it's not clear what she was doing, I was thinking she was going to stab Teresa, but her eyes went foggy. Because I was like, oh no, I don't know how she's been bound, but she's been bound. And
Yeah,
so she
there's
stabs.
a lot of fluid rules here. It's like, well, how
Yeah.
do you I had assumed that the way Sophia got bound was through, like you mentioned, the tarantula bite. Well,
Yeah.
what was the avenue for the binding for Emma? But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's a lot of like, I think things happening just to suit the plot that don't necessarily follow any kind of set rules in this
Yeah.
world.
So she stabs herself, and Teresa's like, no, while she's bleeding out on the floor. And the whole time there's just like this puddle of blood growing. I'm like, dude, she's going to bleed out. Like, she's dying.
Mhm.
She's dead. While she's bleeding out, Ada glasses get thrown across the floor, and it's Francesco's glasses. And so Teresa knows, okay, that's her son. She
Yeah,
killed her
he's
son, presumed dead. And so then Ada emerges, and there's a battle for life. Teresa's trying to fight her off. Sophia has come to, because while laying there on the floor, again, a nice little convenient thing that kind of aids the plot. But Emma's laying there bleeding out. Her blood is mixing with, one could argue, the bad blood from Sophia, the blood that they had just bled her of to try to get rid of. So you would argue, one could make the argument, well, this is just Emma's blood merging with bad blood, but whatever. In this merging of blood, Sophia, the spell is broken. She's no longer bound. She's rebound back to her mother. So she's back to herself. She's crying over her mother because her mother's there bleeding out on the floor. Ada is attacking Teresa. Teresa's fighting for her life. And at the last possible second, Emma is able to come to. She pulls the scissors from her chest and stabs Ada in the throat with it or somewhere. And so she
very
kills.
conveniently, considering how much blood she lost to.
Yeah, considering that just a few seconds ago she was unconscious on the ground. But, she kills Ada. Again, the whole time I'm like, but can you kill her? Because the rules of possession, Veronica, are like, sure, yeah, you might kill the physical body, but you don't kill the evil entity.
Well, that would be how we get to the very last scene of the movie.
Yes. And so Ada is dead, and perhaps released from her torment, because one has to believe that she never intended to cause this much devastation. She was just a woman mourning the loss of her baby, or her pregnancy.
Well, I'm thinking this happened when they were like teenagers even, so maybe not even like a very young adult woman.
Yeah, absolutely. And so thankfully Teresa, Emma, and Sophia, they all survive. They all embrace.
I did like that scene. The three three generations of
women,
of females, hugging in that moment.
And you really did, like, for a woman, for an old woman that you were kind of very suspicious of at the start of the film, what a hero Teresa turned out to be. So
yeah,
that was good. I'm glad she made it. And so then we cut to the final scenes of the movie where it's day. They're still at the villa. Emma's bandaged up. She's recovering. Sophia
were Emma and Sophia at the villa still, or were they back in wherever home was for them?
Believed they were at the villa, because I thought I saw Emma walk into the room, and it was, like you said, the battered walls of the villa, like, this beautiful space that was kind of marred by time and neglect. So, I mean, I didn't believe they were back home. I wasn't clear. They were there, and Sophia's playing at the piano, playing beautifully. Because I guess, like this, we didn't mention this, but I gather that Francesco is some sort of pianist. He's a musician of some kind. So she's playing because he taught her how to play. And I don't even know if words get said. I don't remember. But I do know at one point we see Sophia cough. We see evidence that something is amiss. Something is wrong.
She starts reaching back for that
old
wound. The site of the wound of the bite. The camera pans across the Italian countryside back to the cave, Ada's cave, where apparently it hasn't been long enough for bodies to, I don't know, the body of Francesco is still laying there in the dark, and all of a sudden you hear him just take a gasp of air.
Yes.
And then the movie fade to black.
The binding too. Yeah. The rebinding.
Which is kind of, I was kind of disappointed with the ending, because I feel like that's kind of the cliche horror ending where it's never, it's not over. It's not really over. It's just this round is over. But it also makes me wonder, if he comes back in, I'm assuming, a bound state, possessed state, whatever you want to call it, what will Teresa do? Because that's her son.
Mm-hmm.
And according to her, a mother's bind with her child is indissoluble.
Yeah.
So
Kind of
what
sacrosanct. Yeah.
what stance will she take? Will she do whatever it is to keep her son breathing, whether he's, I mean, I'm sure she'll try to, but I don't know if his
Yeah.
body, see, I don't know. This is where the rules there are, I don't know what the rules are, so I don't know. Was Francesco dead? How much time has passed? Is this like just the next day, the next week? Has he been laying unconscious in this, or was he dead? I mean, I don't know what happened. I don't know what his state is.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Can she save him? Can she try to free him from this binding? But would that mean that he would then be dead? Or
Yes.
would he be himself? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. And we never really know. And that's the thing. Some of the feedback on this movie just sort of talking about uh, the themes, I guess, that this film touches on, but never really dives deep enough into. I would have loved to have seen the folklore, this world of this folklore explored a little bit more,
Mhm.
because it could be a really interesting backstory. But it's like you spend the whole first chunk of the movie wondering what's going on, and then in like the back half of the movie, Teresa dumps like a whole bunch of backstory on us, but yet it's still not enough. You wanted to get a more full sense of what's going on and what all of this means, and you don't really get that just from
Yeah,
her
because that
exposition.
beginning, that scroll of information
Text, yeah.
text, the
Yeah.
informative text at the beginning of the movie that mentions how in this parts of Italy, was it southern parts of Italy,
Yeah.
these kind of old folkloric beliefs still exist. So I felt like we just kind of lightly skimmed at the surface of that, but we didn't ever really delve any deeper into, well, what are those beliefs? And
Yes. Yeah. The credits of this movie are pictures of, I guess, presumably authentic pictures of actual, I don't know what you would call this. Exorcisms? I don't know what you would call this.
yeah,
But cleansings, rituals, things of that nature. And so you got the sense like, well, wait a minute, was this a true story? And so I went digging, and it's not necessarily that it's a true story. It's just, again, it's, I think this director, and this was his debut feature, by the way, but I think this was just this director's attempt to sort of tackle lore uh, specific to Italian history or Italian heritage. Again, an interesting concept, but yeah, it could have gone harder, and that might have made it a very far more compelling film. But
right.
I do think that the critics who kind of just ripped this film to shreds, I think that I thought they were being a little unfair. I think, like, if you are somebody who genuinely likes movies that deal with folklore horror, then this is gonna be a nice easy watch.
Yeah. And not
It's
everything has to be
groundbreaking.
groundbreaking and innovative and just worthy of a dissertation you could write on it. I mean, sometimes a movie can just be a good way to spend an hour and a half, 2 hours tops. And like you said, this was the director's first film,
Mhm.
and it may not have been amazing, but it wasn't horrible either, and it was good.
Yeah,
It was good movie to watch. So I think that's promising. He definitely shows he has a good vision that
yeah,
he can work from, and I think you get better at things as you do them. So I have hopes that he's just going to get better
yeah.
and tighter with his storytelling. So I think it was a good first effort.
It was a good first effort, and another thing that I thought was unfair was just sort of the comparisons of this film to like other films that deal with motherhood, like Hereditary, which is a great film. You can't compare this to Hereditary. That's not fair at all. Especially not this dude's first film. Like, let's roll that back a little bit. But yeah, we will include that stuff in show notes for you like we always do. Ron, if you have, so some of the YouTube videos that you looked at, the YouTube reviews, were
Mhm.
those critiques more positive, or what was like?
Well, they were in Italian. I was just looking
Okay.
for ways to pronounce the I was just
Oh,
looking for
okay.
someone to pronounce the director's last name, that
Oh, okay. So they didn't
Feudis.
have subtitles to them or anything.
No,
Okay.
they were not subtitled at all. They were
Well,
like, "If you're
dang.
Italian, go watch them because you can understand it. I couldn't."
Well, I would be curious to know, because I was hard pressed to find anything super positive about this film, and I would like to present something just for both sidesism, if you will, because
Yeah.
I really like. Again, it was not a bad film by any stretch. So I mean, if you're into folklore horror, give it a go. It's fun. Whatever. It's it doesn't have to keep you up late at night while you try to answer questions. So
Yeah.
we'll jump right into my Son of Frankenstein foray. Have you ever seen that movie, Ron?
No. I
Okay.
don't really have a lot of this might be anathema to horror lovers, but I don't really have a lot of interest in like those really old, even though they were the OGs and they were the start, or at least in cinema. I mean, scary
Mhm.
stories have appeared back when there was just oral stories were passed along orally, but yeah, I just don't have a lot of interest in watching like those old, really old black and white
Well,
horror
I
movies.
I do. I was thinking about this as I was like looking at the list of Frankenstein films out there. I did not have it on my list to watch. I forget exactly what it's called, but it's like Frankenstein meets Wolfman or something like that. I did not have it on my list to watch that one. I forget when it came out, but largely because I have a strong desire to move out of the 30s at this point and I kind of want to just like jump into the 50s. But I do like Wolfman. I really like Wolfman. I like all the Wolfmans. I even like the Wolfman that has what's his face, Benicio del Toro
Mm.
and Anthony Hopkins. And I don't think anybody likes that one, but I like that one. So anyway, we'll launch into it. I watched recently, guys, and my Frankenstein journey continued. I watched Son of Frankenstein, which came out in 1939. It was directed by Roland V. Lee, and it features Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi. I told Ron, I've been bedbound for a while now because of reasons. I'm totally fine, totally healthy and recovering. But I watched this film. I felt it was kind of a snooze fest. And I mean, literally, like I was watching it and nodding off watching it. And I feel like I stand alone in that, Ron, because everything I looked at, it seems like people love and praise this movie and rank it among like the top 5 Frankenstein films. And I'm just like, it didn't do it for me. The film also has Basil Rathbone, if I'm saying that name
Mm.
correctly, famous for his Sherlock Holmes portrayals. He plays the son of Frankenstein. So he plays, the character's name is Baron Wolf von Frankenstein.
He must
So
have been young then, because I can only picture him as older.
he is a younger man here, and so he's the son of the scientist. And so the movie opens where he's traveling back to where his father resided, whatever little town, whatever remote village he came from, to deal with the matter of his father's estate, because Dr. Frankenstein has passed, and so his son is coming to deal with those affairs. And he's kind of commenting to his wife what a tragedy it is that his father's legacy is marred by this disastrous creation of his, the monster who wreaked havoc on this village and caused so much death and destruction, blah, 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 blah. So from the jump, anytime Baron, the son, gets to talking about his father, he gets very impassioned and borderline kind of out of control, to the point where early on, as I was watching this, I was thinking, well, I feel like this dude is kind of borderline crazy and he's going to go full crazy by the end of this movie. So he returns to the estate, and it's large, and nobody in the village is excited for them to be there because they're just like, oh no, it's another Frankenstein. He's going to be just as crazy as his father. We don't want any more of this mad scientist crap going on. He gets to the house and it's empty, but for, I guess, like the housekeeping staff, essentially. And the lab that his father used to work in, that's all abandoned and in disarray. But this is where we meet Igor, and this is played by Bela Lugosi. And so Igor, we come to find out, has kind of just been hanging out in the abandoned lab all this time, because timeline-wise, I guess at the end of the first film, Igor is maybe arrested and tried for the crimes of, I guess, stealing dead bodies from graves and from maybe like the hospitals or whatever, stealing dead bodies to give to Dr. Frankenstein so that he would have bodies to conduct his research and his experiments on. They try Igor and they hang him, only the hanging didn't take. He was dumped into the lab area with like a broken neck. So the whole movie, Bela Lugosi is just walking around with his head kind of tilted at this horrible angle, and he's horribly disfigured from the incident, but he didn't die from being hung. So he managed to survive. I don't know. It's really like Bela Lugosi is one of the most compelling parts of this film. as is Boris Karloff, but Bela Lugosi even more so because he has more to do. You don't even see Boris Karloff until like 45 minutes into this film, which is one of my chief problems with this film, is that you don't see the monster until like more than halfway through this film. Soon, Igor takes the young doctor, the son, to where he's been keeping the monster because the monster is there. He's just sort of unconscious. He's fallen into some sort of state of a comatose state from, I think, like a lightning explosion or something. And so Igor wants the young doctor, to make him well again. Baron, the son, becomes increasingly frustrated because he's not as successful or as smart as his father was. And so he just becomes more erratic, and he does manage to bring Frankenstein back. But, the town is growing suspicious. The town's leaders are growing suspicious of him because they don't want him conducting experiments. They don't want him by chance working to recreate another monster. I found the scenes with Baron, what's his name? Basil Rathbone. I found those to be some of the most tedious. It's a lot of dialogue from him. I didn't enjoy him in this role. I don't really know what to say about that. I just didn't enjoy him in the role. I definitely enjoyed Bela Lugosi, and I definitely enjoyed seeing Karloff. And so I just wanted to see more of them and less of Basil Rathbone. But yeah, I think I'm kind of alone in that. I looked at an article that we'll have linked for you guys, sci-fi.com, that an article called The Overlooked Beauty of Son of Frankenstein, where Matthew Jackson writes that it's one of the most special things about the film is that this is the last time that we do see Boris Karloff in this role. And that's true. Subsequent movies would have different actors. But he says, what really sets Son of Frankenstein apart is the way that it looks, because the film takes place decades after the events of Bride of Frankenstein. So the production has the freedom to update certain aspects of the iconic castle, giving it new decor and an almost expressionist shape that might remind you of the cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And I do kind of agree with that. I did notice that. When they get to Dr. Frankenstein's mansion, in the first film, Veronica, in the 1931 original Frankenstein, any of the house scenes that took place in that movie, it all looked like your very classical, typical old Victorian Gothic mansion. When we get to this movie, they've updated the set considerably, and it doesn't look like a house at all. It looks very Burton-esque, like Tim Burton-esque. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Beetlejuice. I was kind of picking up on that vibe with the architecture and the weird angles and the stark silhouettes. It looks very, like he says, very expressionist. And so I thought that was very interesting and different. He says the shadows, the staircases, the sculptures, the darkness, the look of like you're in prison, throwing shapes against walls. It makes the film feel like the walls are forever closing in on you and on the son and his family. So even by Frankenstein standards, it's an absolutely gorgeous movie. And rewatching it, you may find yourself getting lost in the production design alone. And sure, it's pretty to look at. I don't necessarily, like I said, I didn't love it. It's definitely not going in my top 5 list, even though it apparently is ranked. People love The Bride of Frankenstein. They love Frankenstein the original. They love Son of Frankenstein. And then there's like a couple more. The funny one that has Gene Wilder in it. I forget what that one's called. So I don't know. We'll have to go digging. I definitely want to continue going down the Frankenstein journey, but I kind of want to get out of the 30s, and I kind of want to jump into, I was thinking I wanted to jump into the 50s. The only thing that gave me pause was Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, which came out in like 1943 or something like that. But you have nothing to say. You haven't seen any of those, so you can't comment. Mm-mm. If anyone has strong feelings for Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, I find it compelling only because, like I said, I like the Wolfman. Otherwise, I was thinking I might jump. I'm kind of ready to leave the 30s behind. I will be watching no more from the 30s. I'm ready to move on into the next decade or two.
One of the things I had wanted to do this year in terms of reading was to incorporate more nonfiction into what I read. So I came across this book that I started listening to the audiobook. It's called Blight, Fungi, and the Coming Pandemic by Emily Monosson. And so I thought, because this is what The Last of Us is. Maybe you haven't seen that, right?
I haven't seen it, no.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of what it's based on, a fungal infection that kind of just spreads like an epidemic and people zombified, basically. So anyway, I started reading this book, and I'm still like, I think chapter 2, but it's very interesting. Fungi. We are just a mutation or two away from bad things.
You know what?
So-
You know what we started watching. Speaking of like mutations and things of that nature, Alex and I started watching Fallout. Have you?
I want to see that. I've heard of that recently. Is it on Apple TV?
It's on Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime. Okay.
It's
I wanna watch it.
interesting. I'm liking it. It's more, I think, in Alex's realm of what he enjoys, but I am liking it also. And the reason I was keen to check it out is because I'm seeing a lot of stuff online of people just loving this adaptation, this game adaptation. So it's fun. It's got elements of humor to it, nuclear fallout or whatever, and the fall of society as a result of that. So I definitely give it a go. We've only watched 2 episodes. They're long. They're like an hour long, so we're not burning through it, but I've enjoyed it so far. I am also, to your point about nonfiction, I am reading a nonfiction book as well right now. So I've already wrapped up The Daughter of Doctor Moreau, guys. That is our
I haven't
current.
started it. When do we
Okay.
talk about it again?
We're talking about it on May 27th. Veronica always like burns through books very quickly, so I'm not worried about
this
her.
book, and I have such a pretty cover. I
is
have
pretty
the paperback version, which is like 306 pages. Now,
Yeah.
in the heyday of my reading, I could have burned through this in like 2-3 days tops.
Yeah.
It will probably take me more like a week, maybe a week and a half, but that 300
You'll do
pages
it.
is
You'll
nothing.
do it. Yeah, I don't worry about you. But like the reason we went so long, we give you guys plenty of time to hear us talking about the book a bunch. Get out, buy the book if you don't already have it, and start reading it. So I finished it, and I have now moved on. I am reading a nonfiction book called The Midnight Assassin, which is the story of. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it. It's
Yeah.
on my long to be read list.
It's the story of like a serial killer in the 1800s out of Austin, Texas. And so written by Skip Hollandsworth, who is a writer for the Texas Monthly, a writer that I really enjoy and whose podcasts I've listened to before. I'm enjoying it. I'm already into chapter 5. This is right up my alley. I love true crime stuff, so I'm fully in. We will be at the Texas Hunters Convention in Mesquite, Texas in July. The dates are July 13th and 14th, and Veronica and I will be there. We will be selling some things. We will be talking to people, hopefully getting some interviews and things like that. So we would love to see you. If you are a lover of Halloween like we are, come on down, come see us, come in costume. Bring your
I was
kids.
going to say, do we have to be in costume?
We can be. I mean, I don't know. We don't have to be. But
Halloween in July.
yeah, so it'll be fun. I'm excited. I wanted to go to this conference for a long convention for a long time. So this will be our first time, and I'm looking forward to it. But yes, we do have episodes in May coming up. We are returning to Spanish language horror, and we also have our book club episode. So May 13th, we will be watching The House at the End of Time. I should have, like what would help is if I had tabs open before we start recording. That would be helpful. Okay, The House at the End of Time, La Casa del Fin de los Tiempos. This was a Venezuelan horror film that came out in 2013, directed by Alejandro Hidalgo. This film is, I believe, on Amazon Prime, so go look there. But this is going to be, from the looks of it, Ron, this is going to be another old lady creepy house. So we apparently are in a theme right now of old ladies' creepy houses. We'll see how that goes. But I mean, I pitched this to Ronnie because this movie is kind of likened to The Conjuring and the others. It was apparently the highest grossing horror film in Venezuelan history. So yeah, I'm excited. Had its world premiere in 2013 at the Venezuelan Film Festival.
Cool.
So that'll be May 13th. And then May 27th, we will have book club episode discussing The Daughter of Doctor Moreau by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. And if you were like Veronica, you still have time to get that book read.
It seems like it's been a long time since our last book club.
It is. We went long. Again, because I want to give people a chance to join us. And if you have read the book already, guys, you can message us your thoughts and opinions about it. Hit us up on social media. You can also email us at screamsisterpod@gmail.com. We're on Threads. We're on Instagram. You can find us at Scream Sister on both of those. Okay, well, we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Scream Sister is a Nest production hosted by me, Veronica, and Valerie. Editing by Valerie. Music by Omar Chakor. Production support by Lorenzo Villarreal and Alex Street. Listen to new episodes of Scream Sister every other Monday, and don't forget to give us a rate and review. It's the best way to help us grow.